Luxury watches. They're symbols of craftsmanship, heritage, and prestige. But behind the allure and shiny cases, there's a few things that luxury watch brands probably don't want you to know. In today's video, we're pulling back that curtain and exposing 6 things that the watch industry doesn't want you to know. But don't worry, I've got you back. Buckle up. It's about to get real. Now, before I do get into it, if you are new around here, I'm Jag from Jag's Watches, and this is a watch channel in which I get an opportunity to overanalyze the watch industry, overanalyze watches, and give you my opinion. I'm really happy about the community we're creating on the channel, so please do consider subscribing. And of course, returning viewers, welcome back. I appreciate you. So we're going straight into it. The cost of making these watches versus the retail price. Now, this is something which is pretty obvious. At least I think it's obvious, but the cost of making a watch is sometimes nowhere near the retail price of a watch. Now, this might be the hardest pill to swallow because luxury watch brands often mark up their prices far more than the actual cost of manufacturing, as I've mentioned. Now, the cost to make some of these watches, the materials, the labor, the assembly, can sometimes be a fraction of what you end up paying for. Now, one thing about Christopher Ward I want to just bring up here is that the CEO mentioned, was quite transparent actually, that they have this model in place that they charge 3 times the amount that it costs to make a single piece, a single watch. And now, if we know that Christopher Ward are timesing 3 times the amount, it's quite scary to imagine what the likes of Omega, what the likes of Rolex are charging. Now, you may be asking, why is there such a huge markup? And it's very simple. Branding and exclusivity. A big portion of what you're paying for is the name, the legacy, and the marketing that goes into luxury watch experience. So when you're eyeing up that $20,000 piece, just know the actual cost of making it may be a fraction of that, especially when we're talking about steel models. The one thing that I know, one of the biggest arguments here is that the R&D costs for in-house movements, and that's definitely something which I can understand. But when you're year on year charging more for the same watch, I think the Rolex Explorer now is £6,750, around that mark. You're constantly putting up the prices for basically the same watch. It starts to get very difficult to justify spending more for the same. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on that one. Moving on, talking about movements, the movement isn't always in-house. Hublot. This one might surprise you, might not. While many luxury brands tout that they produce their own movements, a lot of them don't. Big names out there, such as Patek, Omega, and Rolex, do, of course, make their own movements, and there's a lot of evidence to suggest that they do that, and it's kind of common knowledge that they do. But brands like Hublot, even Breitling sometimes, brands which you don't expect, right, to try and mask an off-the-shelf movement. Now, quite often the case is that a lot of these off-the-shelf movements are modified by these brands, but they don't like to be very transparent about that. Here's the thing, outsourced movements are often just as reliable and accurate as in-house ones, and I have no issue with that. The issue I have is when brands aren't being transparent with what they're actually putting into their watches. So when you think you're paying for an in-house movement, you might just be paying for a name. I'm sorry, double check that whenever you're buying a watch. I think that's very important. Now, moving on to number 3, limited editions aren't always limited, especially in today's age where limited editions are just flying up left, right, and center. I've just realized I've left the TV on. I was watching Netflix and I apologize for that. So, limited editions. We've heard all about the exclusive releases, right? The ones where special dies, unique materials, or special engravings limit to a handful of pieces worldwide. But here's the secret. Those limited editions watches are just marketing ploys to create scarcity and drive up the demand. Luxury watch brands know that scarcity increases the desire. We know that this is the case, especially with brands like Rolex. So they might produce far more than they're letting on. It's a psychological tactic to make us believe that we're getting something ultra rare where in fact it could be available in abundance. One actual example of this is the Tuda Harros. When that first came out, there was a waiting list and people were waiting and really wanted to get hands-on with the watch and get one of these watches. It's fairly rare for Tuda to have a waiting list for a watch now. I know recently they've had the pink dial and the Tiffany blue dial in their chronograph, but that had a bit of a waiting list. But typically you don't tend to have to wait for a Tudor watch. The Tuda Harrods, on the other hand, I think had a waiting list for around 2 years. However, now, if you go to Harrods, they're trying to get rid of the remaining stock. I remember I went there around 9 months ago because I was really tempted by the Tuda Harrods. I tried it on, but for me, it's a beautiful watch. Diameter is perfectly fine, but it's a very thick case. It's the original legacy case, from what I understand, and they're still struggling to shift all of those models. So it makes you wonder, how many did they actually make? Limited edition, take it with a pinch of salt, because a lot of them, what makes a limited edition? Thousands, hundreds, 55, I don't know. I think it's starting to become definitely, well, not starting to, but it's definitely become a marketing ploy. Number 4, watch brands can't avoid trends forever. It doesn't matter how traditional or prestigious a brand might be. Eventually, they'll start following the trends, whether it's the rise of larger case sizes, the use of new materials like ceramic, titanium, or growing obsession with vintage reissues, which I think is a recent one. Watch brands eventually have to jump on the bandwagon. I say, mentioning vintage reissues, how many brands now are reissuing their vintage models? Why? Because there's a huge shift now and a huge focus on vintage watches, and I think they understand now that there's a huge market out there for vintage watches and reissues of vintage watches. I think the idea that some brands become immune to trends is just not true. They'll follow the market just like any other business, because at the end of the day, they need to sell watches. And you've seen this with Breitling, you've seen this with Omega. You see this with every single brand, really. Majority of them anyway, with reissuing their classic vintage lineup. And I like that, because I'm a huge fan of vintage watches. And so being able to wear, I don't know, a reimagined version of a vintage watch is great. I think it's a great thing. And for a consumer who likes vintage watches, you can't really complain. Now, segment 5, number 5, Swissmade isn't always what it seems. And I've mentioned this before. Many creators on YouTube have mentioned this, and I don't really want to go into the details. What I first want to say is, if a watch isn't made in Switzerland for whatever reason, or parts are not sourced from Switzerland, I couldn't care less. I think Grand Seiko, other brands have shown us that the quality of watchmaking can rival, and sometimes even better, those watches that are being made in Switzerland. And now we live in a time where it doesn't really matter where the watch is created. I think it depends on a case-by-case basis, of course. But if we take Grand Seiko, for example, I think the craftsmanship there, the movement quality, everything about it rivals the very best. And I know that a lot of you agree. Some of you might not agree. So I don't have an issue if my watch is not made in Switzerland. What I do have an issue with is how brands are not being explicit with where parts are sourced from, because I do feel like having Swiss made on the dial is very misleading. And now creators like myself, many other creators on YouTube, much bigger than myself, have also shone a light on this. And so it's becoming common knowledge, which is great, because I feel like as a buyer, as a consumer, you should know where your watch is coming from, where it's manufactured, where your bracelet's from, where your dial's from. I don't feel like it's fair that there isn't that level of transparency. And I really do think we're moving on from the old school mentality of, if your watch isn't made from Switzerland, it's not a good watch. I really feel like in 10, 20 years time, that will be obsolete. At least I feel like it would be. Even we talk about A. Lange & Söhne, there's so many amazing brands that don't exist in Switzerland. And so this prestige of Swiss made, I don't really put too much, or I don't feel like it carries too much weight now, because it is quite a strong opinion. But I really feel like I have no issue with it if my Omega dial came from China. But I feel like brands should just be transparent. As simple as that. Now, the last thing that they don't want you to know is that they don't want you to focus on the watch. They want you to focus on the brand. Think about it. Luxury watch ads, the celebrity endorsements, the flashy events, it's all about the brand image. They want you to buy into the brand, because ultimately they don't want you to be happy with just one purchase. They want you to buy another watch from the brand, because that's really what it's all about, right? Making more money, making you buy another watch. The product is almost secondary. In fact, many luxury watch brands build their entire marketing strategy around the status of owning their watches rather than having the watch itself. And I feel like I'm a bit of a purist when it comes to this, because I feel like it's all about the watch. It's all about the watch. And I know that we do buy into the brand and buy into what the brand is trying to represent. It's a huge thing. The heritage, the prestige, the history. But ultimately, for me, if I don't like the watch, I'm not going to get it. And sometimes I feel like the brand, the goal isn't necessarily falling in love with the movement or the dial, it's to fall in with the idea of owning that piece from that brand. The watch itself, it's more often about the prestige of the name rather than the actual craftsmanship. And we're seeing this now today in the era of social media. So many people are just buying watches to flex. And I'm not going to get into that. Many people buy AP, many people buy Patek, many people buy Richard Mille, I feel like is one of the brands particularly with focus on this, is that people wearing these watches don't really know anything about them, which is really funny and really interesting. But there you have it. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me or not with some of these takes. That there's 6 things that luxury watch brands don't really want you to know. At the end of the day, I feel like the luxury watch world is as much about perception as it is about the actual craftsmanship. So the next time you're considering a high-end piece, remember that it's not just about the dial or the movement, it's about what the brand actually wants you to believe. If you've enjoyed this video, please do consider liking, subscribing, and hitting that bell icon. I've been Jag from Jags Watches, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.